today we're going to tackle my willows, 2 weeping willows and a corkscrew or dragon claw willow as they're referred to. This is my original weeping willow that I had bought. The other 2 I had were off this. The one I still have, the other one for whatever reason died last year. So I was poking around with a chopstick in the dirt. It's getting a little whatchamacallit, but I think I'm going to hold off and do a good pruning now and then let it, and maybe do the root pruning later in the year. Let the tree bounce back from being pruned. Because these, I find you can usually, I've never really had much trouble doing these any time of the year. You can really, and some years they need 2 cuttings. And I know it was done last year, so I'm not in a huge, and they're just starting to come out the bottom. So yeah, they're just starting to come out the bottom. So I can still get a chopstick in, and they're just starting to come out the bottom. So I think we're good on this one this year. The worst I've ever had these do is sometimes when you do them like sometime in the summer. The worst thing I've had is I'll repot them and they'll drop all their leaves in a day or 2, and then about a week later they'll just put out new leaves. So honestly, it's not the worst thing because that just gets you new leaves started. So it kind of helps in a way. Honestly, maybe defoliating this thing before you did a repot might be just as good for it. Yeah, these things are usually pretty bulletproof. I mean, like I said, the other one I had died, but it was never really, it was a cutting and it was never quite doing good anyways, so there was just some reason it just didn't do so well. But I think we got a nice root system. I mean, a nice trunk here. It's currently about a 1.25 inches in diameter. I know it was much smaller when I got it 3 years, almost 3, yeah, well, a little over 3, yeah. It was about 3 years ago, yeah. This is the winter of 2016, 2017, so it's been 3 years. Yeah, 3 years, yeah. So, we're just gonna clip this back today. I would like to do something, bring this has got like very little taper in here, so this could be cut back somewhere. This might be an option, or we cut it back, leave that in case it doesn't, and try to get something, but I'm thinking of going that because we have these, this wound has not healed up very good for some reason back here. This one's healing nicely. This one's not, so if I do cut it, it will be below that, but it would be below that anyways, because like I said, I want to, and there is a little bit of reverse taper in this, where this branch was growing, so, and it needs to be brought back in size, I think. And like I said, it could use some more taper to add to the top. I still think I'm going to keep both of these branches. I like the 3 kind of trunks, or 2 branches. There is some dieback in here though. So we're gonna have to clean this up. This kind of died. You can see, I don't know if you can see it on the video, but the bark is a little darker here, and it actually has, it's sunken in. It's not that it sunk in. This has grown and come out more, the stuff around it, so it looks like this is sunk in. So that died back a little bit back there, but we can clean up this wound and then cut down here and see what we got in here. So let's get started by cutting some of this dead stuff off. Cut some of this dead stuff off, even if it's in places that I'm probably not going to keep. I'm just going to start with getting rid of some of this dead stuff. And willows in the winter can be prone to dieback. As you can see, this has some winter dieback. It's just something that will happen. It's some of the reason there's a lot of people in bonsai that don't like willows all the time, because they can be prone to dieback. And they can be prone to some severe dieback depending on your winter. I have never had much trouble here. We get some severe winter temperatures at times, but we don't get really, really cold all winter long. It's like bursts of cold, and this winter was not bad at all. Like I said, there was very little dieback at all, but I usually don't have a huge amount of dieback. Usually my dieback is just ends of branches die, and that's about it. I never had whole large branches, but I know people, I've watched videos where people have just had all of a sudden a giant section of a willow just die on them over the winter, so it can happen. It's something you have to be aware of if you want to grow willows. They do have a habit of dying back on you. Okay, so, there's another one. Like I said, just get these dead branches off here. And before I did this, I cleaned out the, I usually do this right before. I don't think nobody wants to see me clean out the pot. I usually clean the weeds out and any debris that's fallen. Like right now, I have a lot of maple seeds that have fallen in here because the maples just dropped theirs the last few weeks that are above us. And to the back of us, there's two red maples, and then there's a big silver maple, which I don't like. It was grown. The silver maple was grown. I grew that from a seed from some that were in the yard behind us that had fallen. And I took a seed and I grew it, and it sat on the back of the toilet for 2 years as a seedling. And we grew it in the yard later. So that was grown back in the 90s. So that tree's over 20 years old. And then the red maples were bought a few years later. The red maples are nice. The silver maple sucks. Silver maples are terrible. I think they're terrible trees in yards. They break. They just break. Their branches break off all the time. They're prone to just breakage a lot. Mostly it's just small ones, but yeah, they're prone to breakage. I don't like them. Okay, so we're going to make some decisions here. Like I said, I like this, and I like this going off. Still trying to decide. Given we got more wounds, we got this really big wound here. And I think the tree moves towards the viewer better this way. We've got some here too, the front thing, but I kind of like the method I've always heard, you want the tree to look like it's embracing you or hugging you, so these are like their arms coming around, so you want your side branches to come in a little bit. So they're embracing you and coming towards the tree should have some general part of it that comes towards the viewer. So I think this is a better front than this. And then again, this will be an ugly wound for a while. I mean, they heal quick, but that's still gonna heal for a while. So we will address that. But I think, we might not address much of it. I might actually cut most of it out and use this as the new leader, to tell you the truth. You know what? I think I am. So, let's get my knob cutters. My knob cutters are better than those. Those were just a bad pair of concave cutters. See if I can show you camera. These concave cutters. I mean, they're not supposed to line up perfectly anyways, either concord cutters or the knob cutters. That's just how they work, but these are just way off. So when I cut, I tend to cut and it leaves an unlevel thing, and part of it actually sort of breaks off, and it doesn't always leave a good thing. So I got to get a new pair of concave cutters, for which I mean, honestly, my old concave cutters do better, and I've been using them for root pruning for years. And then I ruined them by, I was trying to clean them up with some, the old ones up with some alcohol, not alcohol, vinegar. And I clearly left them in a little too long, and they took the black patina that they put on the steel tools. They give them that black patina. I mean, it doesn't seem to have any adverse effect to them other than that. It's not like they rusted. It's not like they're rusting any more than anything else was. I mean, there's rust even on the part with the patina. I mean, these are old, and I haven't taken best care of them. But I may try to. I have not damaged these really much. They're just dull. I might try to end up using these, even though they look kind of terrible with the patina off of them. But let's start. Let's just start. We'll hack it off here. Ooh, I might need a saw to. No, there it goes. There it goes. Just need to get. Hey, there. And I probably try to take some cuttings of the willows. I like to have a couple willows in case something were to happen. I can always start a new one. I mean, willows do not take much to try to grow, to cut, make cuttings out of. I mean, I could put this, I could cut this bottom off to get a better ending, and this thing will sprout out. I could put it in water. In a couple weeks, it'll start sprouting out some maybe less than 2 weeks probably. It'll start sprouting out some roots in the water, and leave it there for a good month and a half. You know, all the roots you want, you can put it in stuff, and most likely it'll survive from there. But I'll keep stuff on the side, and I'll see what I want to make into cuttings. So now I'm going to try to clean this up as best we can. And what I'm trying to do here is just kind of get a little better transition into this place where I'm cutting off, and I'm just using these as a, I think I may just use these the whole way. I actually like these knob cutters, as they call them. And they're just like, they're a lot like the concave cutters in their basic shape. But as you can see, they're, instead of being a straight, or either a straight one, or some of them have like a curve to them. But instead of being like, you know, like that cutting surface, these are more of a, they're curved all the way around, and they're just, they kind of nibble in there better. And generally, I'm just trying to get it so it'll help heal it over better. But we want to get some of this back stuff out a little bit. I generally find you're going to have, oh shoot, I ripped. And that's if you don't watch out what you're doing. You pull the, but that should heal over. That should heal over nicely on a, I'm not too worried about it with a willow. Willows grow like weeds. Yeah, willows tend to grow like weeds, so. But I want to watch here. I don't want to cut too far in there where we weaken the piece we want to keep, the new branch we're trying to keep. But we're trying to just make this so it'll taper better. And quite honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if I come back to to nibble away more of this later. After I see how it's starting to heal up, it might need another another. Like I said, all I'm trying to do is the back of this. I'm just trying to taper it so as this grows out, this will heal over and then be a lot less of a noticeable. And you gotta think. You always want your where you're wounding it and putting and cutting it. You always want that to be down further than you think, because I mean some trees are really bad at this. Trident maples will, no matter what I seem to do, when you heal the trident maple over, they will be a little bit risen, because they can rise quite a bit, and then you let them grow out, and then it becomes less noticeable. But trident maples, you tend to just kind of use that as a feature. You just make it into a character of the, more of a character of the trunk, and not worry about it too much. Just the way a trident maple is. You know, trident maples just don't heal the best for what we would want in bonsai. Okay, let's just try to get some of this out of here. Okay, I think that's good. I think that's as good as I'm going to get it. Like I said, I can come back later, a later date, and maybe clean it up a little more if I have to. And then we're just going to take and clean. Okay, I can probably, yeah. I'm just gonna kind of re-wound for these. I'm just gonna kind of re-wound and try to get a little bit of this stuff out of here so it will heal over better. Where it died. You generally want to cut back to where, for a good wound heal over, you want to get it back to where you'll see green on the edges. Like here, we don't still see. It will heal better if you clean that dead stuff out that's before it. It'll heal over better for you. And then, of course, this big of a wound, even on a weeping willows, I don't always. These, I wish I didn't. That's probably why this one failed. I think I know I didn't. You can see I didn't put anything on here and nothing on here. But even weeping willows heal way better with some. Let me get that off. I didn't notice that. With paste. I think there was paste on here. You know what? I'm going to. I don't know what is, but we're gonna wound. This is a wound here that was healing up a little. I'm just gonna clean that up, and hopefully that'll heal over again. I'll just clean out the. Had a little bit of a bulge there, so. Okay, so there's that cleaned up. I will, like I said, now let's try to transition these two areas a little bit better. Should look better when it heals. Now, given how hard this was, I am going to go get my pruning saw for this. I don't think this just barely I cut through it, so I will get the pruning saw for that, and I'll be right back. Okay, so we're going to cut this off right above this branch here. I will try. Cut it off as clean as I can here. Seems to do better. Man, I almost called that. Seems to start better that way. And this will take a little bit because I'm going to go very slowly. Because going very slowly will give me the best results. Even more as we come to the end. If you've ever used a saw, you know how the end can really, I should have took this off the turntable. The end can really bust out on you easily if you don't be careful. And I'm gonna probably cut this about here and try to, that would be a nice root cutting if it takes. So we're just gonna throw it on the ground over here for now. So there's that cut. And then I'll have to get some wire. And shouldn't need too heavy a wire, but I need wire to cut that up. I'll have to put that up. We'll put, and again I will treat this with soon. And we might clean this up a little. We'll probably clean that. You know what? Probably will cut that up a little before. A lot of this edge is probably going to die back anyways. Okay. Nibble some of this back. So it'll heal over more natural looking. It won't look so much like it was what it was cut off, because we would like this to kind of heal up like it wasn't cut off. We'd like it to look like it hadn't been cut off. And even as colorful as I was with the end piece, it's still kind of did weird here. And we're just trying to really make it so it'll heal over better. And then I'm gonna take, we're not gonna actually cut into any of the living tissue this time. We're just going to cut some of this old wood out in the center. I'm going to have to go get an X-Acto knife to cut that better, I think. This X-Acto knife in my bonsai kit, because I use it more for that than anything else. And I always find it, get it out of there when I need it. And here I'm just trying to get I wouldn't say a clean cut, I would say a relatively clean cut with the willow. I find the willow's live veins don't always cut the best. The X-Acto knife does a way better job than the cutters do. And I know a lot of people that, I honestly, I'm thinking of starting to get into this habit of using an X-Acto knife at the end to clean these wounds up, because you probably do get a lot better. I know a lot of people do it because they say you get a better area to cut. I don't want to try this up here. I do need to cut out a little bit of wood up near this branch here that we're going to turn into the new leader. Actually, I'm going to cut this off. We don't need this little. I seen that. I didn't notice it until I went to cut, and I noticed this little branch there. And then this probably needs to go too. I don't know why I didn't take that off yet, but we'll get to that and all that. And this, I want to. Maybe I will come down. Maybe I'll come up this branch. Now, we don't need a lot of wire going up this branch. We just need enough to help get the base of it to bend up and get. I'm actually going to bend this. This might seem weird. I'm going to actually bend this further than I'm going to need. Because I can guarantee the willow will bounce back a little bit, because we won't leave this wire on. I will come back within a week and check this wire, because it will most likely start digging in within a week. That is how I will come back in a week and check this wire, because that is how quick these willows tend to grow, that less than a week you'll get wire marks. I mean, I will get wire marks in this. Probably not the trunk, but this thing will end up with a few wire marks. I've never got around. If you have to, I try not to wire a willow more than I have to, but if you do have to, you're going to end up with a little bit of wire marks. Now, they'll grow out. I had wire marks down in here. I had them up in here, and you really cannot see any of them anymore. They have grown out to the point they're not noticeable anymore, because they grow so quick. It just takes a year or two. They will grow out, but you will have wire marks if you're going to wire. It's kind of how it happens with a willow. There's no getting around it on a willow. So let me just chop. Looks better. That little piece of wire there. Then I'm actually going to see about cleaning some more of this up. Kind of hollowing this out again. I will show you that when I'm done, how I've we'll show you this as best I can. I'll zoom in real quick and show you as best I can of what this looks like. Yeah, I think you get the general idea of how it's kind of I concaved it in, and that'll just help it heal over and look better in the future. I'm going to actually bring us in, because we're going to chop most of that top stuff off. I should have got this thing closer before. Sorry about that. That is one place I need to... scenes. Setting up my scenes is still a place I need to work on with these videos. I don't always do the best job of setting up my scenes. I know that. Okay, so we got this. Now we got to decide on something back on these two things. We are going to take this off, because this is just going to make this area wider. As you can see, it's already made a bump here. That'll just make that worse. This should pretty much grow out with time. You can see this is this is probably cut. This was probably cut sometime last year, or probably the year before. probably the year before, probably 2008, maybe the end of 2008. This was cut. This is healing over, and I think this will eventually look more like stuff up here. There was probably something cut off in here at one point. They do eventually on willows fairly quickly grow out. So here, I think we're just going to take this one here. So we will begin by just cutting off. And again, this would probably make a nice cutting. Cut it up. If you're making a cutting out of this, I wouldn't keep much of this. I'd just like cut these back. I wouldn't worry about your structure much at all. You just want to get new roots growing. Then you can worry about it as it grows out. Like I said, willows, like the easiest tree in the world to make cuttings out of. I've had cuttings fail, but they usually fail down the line. I've never had anything I've put in water not grow roots, put it in a thing and go. Sometimes some of the cuttings just never do the greatest. Like that one I had, it was going off of a slanted. I was gonna have like a slanted, double trunked and slanted, but it just, like I said, it didn't survive. So that's the way it goes sometimes. You can't win every battle. Okay, now we're gonna try. I'm gonna try to get this as close to there as I can. Ooh, I think I ruined that. I cut this a little too. I will paste it up and see if it. I will paste it up and put some wire on it and see if it heals over and works. But I don't think it's gonna work. I don't think. I think I cut that just a little too. And here's what you gotta watch when you're cutting some of these things. Sometimes is cutting them too. Yeah, I really doubt. I'll put paste on it and see what happens, but it's not the end of the world with a willow. I'm sure it's a good chance that something will bud back down here further. Oh yeah, this is gone. This is almost ripped off already. So I'm just gonna, yeah, there, I ripped it off. I didn't think I could say that, but so what we'll do now is we'll just hope that something buds back. If it doesn't, we still got this to go. That's just the way it goes sometimes. That was a mistake I did, and that is a mistake that shows you to watch where you got. I would have been better to beat back a little further and then just cleaned it up later, but yeah, I cut all the wood out and I left just the living part of the tree on this end piece. So I will just clean up this end like that. I'll probably put some paste on that. So, okay, here we're going to cut. There's two branches there. I'm going to save one or the other, but we are going to cut that back to there, and that I did better. I left a little bit of stuff. I can always come in here and clean this up. And I will leave that in there. I'm leaving that mistake in there because that's part of learning stuff. You make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. You make mistakes sometimes. You just roll with it and move on. Especially on a weeping willow, which will most likely just do fine. We're going to get rid of this branch here, favor this one, and we're going to take this off because it's big already. It's just going to get bigger, honestly. I find with the weeping willow, you just really don't worry about branch structure while you're building the tree at all. Some trees you can think about branch structure. This, no. If you're trying to keep a branch that is not going to be long running, it's going to grow. I mean, these are huge. These have only been on here a couple years. They're huge. They were like this a year, like maybe 2-3 years ago. These are some of the, these probably aren't even original branches, I'm thinking. Because I will put somewhere in this video, I will show you a picture of what this looked like when I got it. So, just got to decide on which branch here to keep. I think we're going to keep the one, see we have this, I think I'm going to keep this for now. See we got this on this side, I'll keep the one on that side. And there we go. That's my weeping willow now. This will sit in like any tree. I will sit this in some shade. Maybe not as much shade as normal trees, just because these things bounce back so quick and just keep growing anyways. I'll probably put these mitts maybe back on the back steps. It'll get some sun. Although I probably will leave it out. I'll probably leave it out on this bench for a couple of days at least. But still, this won't stay in cover as long as some of them. And these, the willows and my wisteria, sit in a tray with water that's about that much water in it, just so they can always soak up water and get water. These and wisteria like their feet, as they say, their feet wet. Now, another thing I am going to do is I'm going to top the soil off with some fresh soil. Because there's roots starting to show. There's roots that are starting to be exposed, so. I'm just going to throw some fresh soil on there. So they're more likely to develop, because we don't know what we're going to have for hopeful for some surface roots when we finally replant this. So there we are. That's the weeping willow, my original weeping willow. Okay, here's my weeping willow that I did on the 26th, which this video was for. This is on today, which June 5th. It's been 10 days since that was cut back. And you can see that this thing has done just fine. It's budded out all over the place. Even that one back there that had nothing on it is just filled with new branches and new little branches and buds. So as you can see, this did just fine. Okay, this is 13 cuttings in these orange plastic pots that I took off the weeping willow and the dragon claw willow. And you can see I replanted these yesterday. So in 9 days, they had all grown roots out just by sitting in water. So that shows you how easy these are to root. Every one of them rooted except one that didn't get down in the water. It just dried up and died. But that wasn't because it didn't get down into the water. Everything else rooted. These are just what I kept. There were a few I just discarded because 13 is enough of them for me. I don't even think I need that many. And then you'll see off to the right here, those are 2 new trees I bought Wednesday when I went on a little road trip to a bonsai place that's about 2 hours away from me in Maryland. One's a Sarissa, and the other is a Kingswood boxwood that I got. So we'll be working on them at some point. I did repot this one just because I don't like the pot. The soil they had it in was not draining well at all, and I don't like that. So I did kind of an emergency potting, and I'll just keep this in the sun for a while to make sure it recovers. I didn't really want to do a repotting, but I didn't think it would do well, and I don't think it'd do the greatest in the pot outside. They had it in a greenhouse so they could control how much water would go in it. I can't do that. I repotted it in my own soil. And then over here, we will just show you real quick. This was the weeping willow I repotted, and I didn't show it on film, but I did do some tweets on my Twitter about it, and it's actually buried about 2 inches deeper than it was, because if you ever remember seeing this one, this is the one I had trouble with. It grew out, it was a cutting off of the other one, it broke and then regrew, and where it broke there was a big reverse taper. So I'm hoping pulling this down, it should re-root, because these things root so easily without even doing a ground layer on it. It should re-root, and hopefully I'll get enough root where that inverse taper is, and I can use that as the new root base for it. And this is doing just fine. It was repotted and cut back even more severe than the other one, as you can see. There's not a whole lot left to it, because a lot of what you're seeing, some of what you're seeing back here is the Chinese elm behind it. So there's that too. If you enjoyed, like, subscribe, hit the bell, comment. Next time.